Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension, was it really as good as we remember? To answer that question, yes, it is as good as we remember. Actually, it's probably better than I remember. Okay, I came into this with, no expectations because I haven't watched Phineas and Ferb since I was, in middle school. I seriously forgot how funny Phineas and Ferb is. I remember being absolutely obsessed with this show in elementary school. I watched it all the time. I mean, why wouldn't I? It's about summer, it has lovable characters. Not to mention, the music is actually so good for no reason. They just, went out of their way to make the music really good. If you haven't watched an episode of Phineas and Ferb in a while, here's the basic setup of what happens in every episode. So there are two brothers named Phineas, who's the triangle, and then Ferb, who's the F. Ferb doesn't talk, and they think of some invention that they want to do today, and then they build that while their platypus, Perry the platypus, sneaks off and goes to fight Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who is a very dumb but lovable evil scientist. But Candace always wants to be a little snitch and tell her mom about what her brothers are doing. But before Candace can do that, Dr. Doofenshmirtz's machine somehow destroys Phineas and Ferb's invention, which just makes Candace look like a lunatic. Okay, so that's basically the summary of every single Phineas and Ferb episode. But we are here to talk about Across the Second Dimension, which is absolutely wild compared to any Phineas and Ferb episode. So here is basically what happens in the movie. Phineas and Ferb start off their day by hanging out with their favorite animal in the world, a platypus. And it happens to be Perry's 5th anniversary with them. Then we cut to Candace believing that she's too mature to date someone like Jeremy once he goes off to college. So she decides to act more grown up and bust her brothers herself because she's old enough to. Phineas and Ferb end up building a new invention like always, and Perry slips away. Phineas and Ferb's invention is like a catapult type thing that looks like Perry. But anyways, it flies into Dr. Doofenshmirtz's building and destroys the other Dimensionator that he was building. But Phineas and Ferb, obviously being the genius inventors they are, fix it in 2 seconds by removing the self-destruct button. Perry shows up, but he has to remove his hat, looking like a normal platypus, and Dr. Doofenshmirtz doesn't recognize him because... So they all manage to open this portal, and they walk inside it, and they find out that Dr. Doofenshmirtz is actually an evil dictator. And obviously Perry's quite concerned. Phineas and Ferb don't realize that he's evil. Eventually Dr. Doofenshmirtz meets the eviler, I guess, version of himself. And in this dimension, Perry the platypus is Perry the Pladborg. Our Perry exposes himself to Phineas, and Phineas is pissed, but I'll talk about that later. Phineas and Ferb and Perry all escape the tower and get down to the street, but everything is completely different. There are robots everywhere, and everyone's not allowed to be outside of their house. So Phineas and Ferb eventually find their other dimensional selves, and they're pretty useless. But then Perry sees on the news that if he turns himself in, the boys won't get hurt, so he leaves to go do that, and Phineas and Ferb go find Isabella. So then they meet the Resistance, which includes the Girl Scouts, Baljeet, Buford, and Candace the leader. Baljeet explains in an amazing song,
"If you travel through dimensions, going clockwise makes it easy. Going counterclockwise would take 8 million gigawatts of energy, overloading the local power grid."
So he opens the portal, but it's super unstable, and Phineas and Ferb just learned that Perry got captured, so Phineas wants to stay and try and rescue him. But then our Candace, back home, comes through the portal, and it collapses. This girl just can't catch a break. So they all go to rescue Perry at this point and end up getting captured. And our Dr. Doofenshmirtz as well gets sent to die because he was too annoying. And the thing is, I'm not even over-exaggerating when I say sent to die. They were literally sent to a huge, fluffy, weird-looking monster in a cage under a river of lava. But the leader of the Resistance here, Candace, comes back and throws Phineas the alternate dimension remote, and they go through a bunch of different dimensions till they finally get home, and they find that the evil Dr. Doofenshmirtz has used the portal to invade the dimension that we know. Perry gives Phineas and Ferb his locket, which leads to a secret lair that holds all of Phineas and Ferb's old inventions, so they all come together to fight the evil robots and the evil Dr. Doofenshmirtz. They eventually deactivate all of them, and our Dr. Doofenshmirtz gives the evil Dr. Doofenshmirtz a toy train, and he is suddenly no longer evil.
You know, my crimes against humanity had just completely slipped my mind.
Okay, so some of my thoughts on the movie. Okay, the songs. The songs are so good. I do not remember them being so catchy, but I do remember playing the first song, Everything's Better with Perry, a bunch of times when I was younger. Like in my living room, in my kitchen, at my school. Like, all the songs are so good. I really like that this movie is centered around Phineas and Ferb's relationship with Perry. And I love that scene where they show us a little flashback of them adopting Perry the Platypus. And I love how dumb Perry's design is and how happy Phineas was that Perry was looking at both Phineas and Ferb at the same time. I loved everything about that scene, especially when Phineas and Ferb say at the exact same time the perfect name for Perry was Bartholomew.
Bartholomew.
That was probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. And I also thought it was really interesting to see Phineas's reaction to finding out that Perry was an undercover secret agent, because he is pissed. And I did not think he would be that mad. I think Phineas kind of assumed that Perry didn't actually love them and he was just using them for a household. Phineas was also super mad that Perry knew that Dr. Doofenshmirtz was evil, but still let them open the portal. And then Ferb helpfully reminds Phineas that,
well, he did pee on the couch.
And I absolutely love when Perry hands Phineas his pamphlet.
So you've discovered your pet is a secret agent. I don't want your pamphlet.
But by the end of the movie, obviously, Perry's like, I have to leave if you guys know my secret identity. So Perry obviously wasn't just trying to lie to them. Okay, can we talk about Dr. Doofenshmirtz's musical number with himself? It must have took so much creative energy because there are so many different references in it, and they're all so funny, and the animation just works so well. And I absolutely love that the evil Dr. Doofenshmirtz's tragic backstory is that he lost a toy train one day. And he manages to become the dictator of the tri-state area. While our Dr. Doofenshmirtz literally had to live outside and dress as a girl and be a gnome. I always felt bad for Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Okay, Candace, I really liked her story arc in this movie. She learned that she should not try to grow up so fast, and I think that's a super, super important lesson for any teenager or preteen right now, especially with social media and everyone's constantly trying to look older and look more pretty and act older like they're 20, when in reality they should just be enjoying their youth because it doesn't last forever. Even though Candace is a junior in high school, she still likes very childish things. And that's not a bad thing at all. Even if her boyfriend is going off to college and is a bit more mature than her, she can still enjoy her childhood without feeling the need to grow up. Because that's what Phineas and Ferb's all about. Enjoying your childhood and making the most of it. I really think it's in great contrast with her alternate dimension self who didn't get to have a childhood because she was always protecting her brothers and making sure they were safe. And I also just have to comment on how much I love Ashley Tisdale's voice for Candace. It just fits her so perfectly because I would never picture her voicing Candace, but it's so perfect. Okay, Perry, can we talk about him for a second? A platypus. I thought that platypuses weren't real for the longest time watching this. I thought it was a made-up animal that they made. I was like, what the heck is a platypus? I've never seen a platypus in the street. I've never seen it walking on the sidewalk or something. I only figured out a couple years ago that they're real, and that's so embarrassing to think about, but it's true. I did not know. Okay, moving away from platypuses, let's talk about the animation of this film. I absolutely love how aesthetically different the second dimension is compared to our Phineas and Ferb's home, and you can just tell by the color scheme how out of place they are and how they don't belong in this world. Plus, everyone from the second dimension just looks so cool, especially Candace. All the colors just match so well together and it's so aesthetically pleasing. And the animation is so good. There are so many funny visual gags placed everywhere that they really didn't have to put in, but make the movie just so much better. At the very end of the movie, they have this huge battle which includes every past invention that they ever made during the show and fight against the evil robots and the evil Dr. Doofenshmirtz. After they win the battle, Phineas learns that Perry has to be sent away because they know his secret identity. So Phineas and Ferb have the option to either remember the best day of their life or get to keep Perry. And obviously they choose Perry. And I think the writers did a really good job on making it make sense why Phineas and Ferb won't remember remember the whole movie. So right before they're going to lose their memory by the amnesia-nator, Isabella kisses Phineas, and I totally freaked out watching this. I was like, oh my gosh, that is the cutest thing ever, because I did not remember that scene at all. Honestly, I forgot that Isabella even had a crush on Phineas. So when she did that, I was like shocked. Phineas's reaction's just like so adorable, and how happy he is that she kissed him. He's just like screaming, wait, wait, wait. And it's just the sweetest thing ever. And the very last scene is Perry looking back at the photos with Phineas and Ferb, and it's so adorable to see how much they all care for each other. Overall, this movie is 100 times better than I remember it. Phineas and Ferb, like I said earlier, is just all about making the most out of your childhood, and I think that's a really amazing thing, and this movie captures that message extremely well. If you guys want more content of me going over animated shows and movies, make sure to hit the like button, and please subscribe so you can see all the new videos. Okay, bye!